In the last video, we talked about pencil procedures, so now let's talk about absence procedures and how to get your students caught back up if they missed a day in art class. Unfortunately, student absences are unavoidable, and you're going to have students miss classes almost every single day. So the trick to keeping your students caught up, there are a few ways that you can do this. There is a downloadable resource to look at a few different ways that you can get your students caught back up if they've missed a day. So let's go through these. The first thing you can do is if you make a note of students that were absent in your lesson planner so that you can actually mark down exactly who was missing and know for the next class that they're going to need to get caught back up. Another thing you can do is if you're passing out papers for a project, you can actually get a student a paper and write their name on it. And that way, when you're passing out those papers the next class, if they get their blank paper, then they'll know that they were missing that day and they can get started on that project. Another thing you can do is that when you are giving a demonstration, if you're using a document camera or a tablet, you can actually record your demonstrations and play these for your students during the next day. You can also have a student take process photos, or you can even do this while you're making your example. And I like to create a slide presentation for my students if I do this, and I'll have all of the process photos on a different slide, and they can just click through and see the steps on how to draw something or how to draw whatever project it is that we're doing. Another thing you can do is create a catch-up day. So this is a day where students are catching up on all of their projects that they have done during class. And if they have any that are unfinished, they can use this day to finish them. So if you do this, I like to have a little catch-up folder. So every student laughs whenever I say catch-up, and so we make it a big deal that it's all about catch-up when it's just you're catching up on that project. But students enjoy it, and it's really engaging. So if you have anything in the catch-up folder, then students will know on catch-up day that's what they need to be doing. The last thing you can do is when a student is absent, you can have another student that's responsible act as the art teacher and catch that student up and show them exactly what they missed out on. I really like to do this, and it encourages my students to be more involved in art class, and because they knew what to do when they were here, it keeps them more accountable and gives them an opportunity to teach the other students what they learned. If a student misses multiple days in art class and they're really behind on a project, I like to see what are the main things that a student needs to get out of a project, so that way we can kind of skip a few steps ahead to get them all caught up. So for instance, if we're using painted paper and we took one day to actually paint that paper, and then the next day we cut it up, I'll have a student kind of imitate what that painted paper looks like by taking oil pastels and just coloring the paper instead. And it gives that textured painted paper effect without actually taking the time to paint the paper and having to wait for it to dry before they actually are able to move on. Now that we've talked about absence procedures, in the next video, we're going to be talking about procedures for distributing supplies, starting with utilizing your classroom helpers.